since we sit so much. So we'll come to a flat back when we're ready. No rush. I know I sent the playlist a couple minutes late, but we'll come to a flat back. Knees are kind of bent in towards the chest naturally, and the hands are kind of pulling them in and out. Just finding some gentle movement here. Massage on that low back. I want you to find where the low back is in contact with the mat, so your knees aren't so pulled into the chest. They're kind of released out a little bit. You should feel that low back down. And as you tuck the knees in towards the chest, you're going to feel that low back peel off of the mat. Feel the contact and then the separation. Noting the movement in the body that it takes to produce the space and then make the space go away. We're going to let the soles of the feet come flat to the mat. Wag the knees left and right. Take a release in the low back. And then that prop that we found, whether it's a pillow that you want to curl underneath or it's a block of some sort, I want you to find that with your hand by your side. Keep rocking. And then eventually come to knees bent up towards the sky. Soles of the feet are flat down, about hip width distance, and the fingers can just brush the heels. So maybe you have to bring the heels in a little bit closer. Now we're going to press down into the heels, tuck the pelvis slightly, and feel the hips flow up off of the mat. I want you to slip that prop underneath the flat part of the back, so it's just above the tailbone. You should feel like you're placing the hips on a shelf. If it's a pillow, it's going to feel a little cushier than just resting on a block. We're finding a little bit of height here. Imagine the hips melting over that prop. I always use the analogy of a blanket that's just folded, or a blanket that's draping over a post. So the blanket hugs that post. All four corners are seen poking through the blanket. That's our hips draping over the prop. Feel that release, that opening. Okay, we're going to tuck that left knee in towards the chin. Take the hands to the top of the left shin. Maybe extend that right leg long and keep pulling that left knee in towards the chin. The right heel can come flat to the mat. Feeling an opening in the deep hip on the right side. So that's your psoas. It's hard to get to. And maybe if the prop beneath you isn't super high and super rigid, you might not feel it a whole lot. But you might, even still, if it's just a pillow beneath you. Take some circles with that left knee. Inward and then outward. Knee pulling towards the chin, toes pulling towards the left shin, and then let the sole of that left foot come back to the mat. Instead of bringing that right knee to meet the left, we'll bring it right in to the chin. So the right knee pulls towards the chin. Left toes, or right toes pull towards the right shin. And then the hands come to the top of that right shin. Extend the left leg long. Stretch into the left psoas, left hip. Take those circles out and in with that right leg. Knee pulls towards the chin, toes towards the shin. And let the right foot come down flat to the mat. Left foot comes back to meet the right, knees are bent up. We're still resting on that prop beneath the low back. Find another moment of stillness here. Feeling the hips draping even more open, more wide over that prop. And we'll press into the heels. Make sure that the knees, the ankles are about hip width distance again, aligning properly. Activate into the glutes, tuck the pelvis, press into the heels, lift the hips just enough to float that prop out to the side, and then ripple vertebrae by vertebrae, bringing the tailbone and hips down to the mat last. Then hug those knees in. We'll take a happy baby, so hands come to the outsides of the feet, arms come to the insides of the knees, and we're pulling the elbows and knees down towards the armpits together. So the forearms and the shins are actually parallel together here. Low back is probably peeling up. Try to pull it back down by pressing feet into hands, hands into feet, and activating the abdomen, closing the ribs off on the front of the body. You should feel a compression in the hips. It doesn't matter how close the legs are to the chest, the sides. All that matters is you find that sensation in the hips, that compression. I want you to keep that right hand to the right foot. Stay in that happy baby, but just on the right side. Pull the left heel towards the left butt and extend that left leg long. So we're in a half happy baby. Left hand can come to the hip. That left hip, make sure that it doesn't rock open. It naturally wants to pull up from the mat. But anchor that left glute, that left hip down to the mat. Inhale and exhale. Then let that right heel come towards the right butt. Take the left hand to the outside of the right thigh and twist it over, full spinal twist. The right hand comes out to the side. Gaze can drop over to the right side. We're twisting, pulling that leg over to the left side with our left hand. You feel a really nice twist in the spine, the QL, the low back just above the hip. Make sure that you can breathe wherever you move. Not holding the breath or sacrificing the quality. Then bending just at that right knee, I want you to tap the right toes towards the left knee. Then rock yourself back to a flat back. Extend the right leg to meet the left. Pull the left knee in towards the chest and take your half happy baby with the left hand to the outside of the left foot. Right hand comes to the right hip. Make sure that those hips are even down on the mat. Imagine someone placing a big rock on that right hip, and it makes that right glute stay super solid to the mat. Finding that compression in the left hip. Continue to breathe. And then slowly pull that left heel towards the left butt, cross the right hand to the outside of the left leg, and open that left arm into a T out to the left side. That left leg is pulling over to the right side with the right hand. Gaze can drop over to the left side, the left hand, if that feels good. If not, the gaze can just stay up towards the ceiling. Notice if that shoulder is peeling up off of the mat, that left shoulder. You want to try to keep the 3 points, the left shoulder, the right shoulder, and the right hip down. The left hip is lifted, it's twisted. We want to try to keep those other 3 points down in our full spinal twist. Then we'll bend at the left knee, pull the left toes towards the right knee, rock to a flat back. Extend the left leg long with the right, hands up overhead. Take a full body stretch. Reach the toes and hands away from each other. Maybe squish the face. And then release. Hands come by our sides. Feet come flat to the mat, knees bent up. Hands behind the legs, and we'll rock up into an easy seat. So take a couple rocks here. This should feel really good on the spine. chin tucking to chest, and eventually come into our bear squat. The feet are going to come just a little wider than the mat. Toes are kind of slanted off, hands are behind the hips. Now I want you to focus on keeping those hips down. It's easy to drop these legs over to the side and let this butt lift off of the mat, but I want you to keep the hips down and just drop until you really feel that opening in the hip with that leg inward. Then switch. The ankles or the heels stay anchored to the floor, and those knees are just swaying left and right. Then for a couple rounds, I want you to lift that butt. Notice how that changes things when you rotate a little bit more. So one butt stays down, one side of your butt stays down, the other doesn't. So as you twist, you're just letting one butt lift and then come back down, and then the other lifts, come back down. Notice which one you like better, keeping both of the hips down or lifting one and the other. Good, so we're gonna let our knees drop over to the right side. Next time they come there, stack the shoulders over the hips. We're gonna take a gentle twist, taking the left hand to the right knee. Twist, gaze over that right shoulder. This left hip here is pulling up away from the mat. There's a gap here. You can just slide your hand underneath, but you wanna imagine that rock again, drilling down, pulling that left hip towards the mat, while simultaneously twisting over that right shoulder. From here, round down, activate the abdomen, keep the twist there, but lift that right arm up and over and reach towards that left foot with those right fingertips. It's tough. You feel a stretch in the hip flexors and also in that side body, that right side body. The more you can anchor that right hip down and pull the right fingertips up and over, the more you're going to feel it in your side here. Then I want you to keep pulling that right hand to the outside of the left leg. Rotate those knees back up. Hand comes to the outside of the leg. Hands are crossed. Take a cat back here. So belly button to spine, chin to chest. Rounding through the spine, pulling it towards the back of the room. Feel a pull between the shoulder blades, the rhomboids. Imagine someone's foot between, or their foot is pressing on your chest, pressing your spine backwards towards the back of the room. Then release those hands, drop them behind the hips, rock left and right to kind of get a release there. And then we'll drop the knees over to the left side, taking that variation on the other side. So the knees drop just where they naturally fall. And we'll take that right hand to the left knee and twist over, gaze over that left shoulder. Again, imagine drilling that right hip down to the mat, anchoring yourself with the hips. Stacking the shoulders over the hips as much as you can. And we'll reach those that left finger, those left fingertips up and over, reach the left hand towards the right foot, getting a side body stretch here. And then as you're pulling, keep pulling that left hand towards the outside of the right leg, cross to the outside of that right leg, chin to chest, spine pulls back, get that stretch in the rhomboids. Again, like we're taking a cat back, but seated here. And we'll pull back up. Shoulders stack. Legs are going to come into butterfly, so the feet come together, Baddha Konasana. You can decide whether you want them to be super in towards the hips or further out. Totally depends on what you're feeling in your body. I'm going to let mine come somewhere in the middle. And then we're going to create this little pocket with our hands. So cross the pinky, ring, and middle fingers, but leave the pointer and the thumb open. Then just kind of open that hand. It's kind of like a little pocket, and pull it over the toes. Try to pull that chest through, creating length in the spine, crown of the head pulls away from the tailbone. And we're exhaling, pulling that chest forward. So if I did this from the side, you'd see that rather than rounding my back like this, I have this pulling length through the crown of the head. I'm trying to tilt my pelvis, my tailbone, out and up towards the back of the room rather than curling it under. That's gonna lengthen through my low back, my lumbar back. Maybe play with the breath, inhaling length through the crown of the head, exhaling, pulling a little bit deeper. Not going further than the length allows. So we don't want to go to a point where we're then curling. We want to keep that length here today so that we're staying in the hips. And that last inhale, grow a little longer, taller. Exhale, pull a little deeper. And then pull back up. Shoulders stack. Legs are gonna cross. And we're gonna rock over into a table. Knees beneath the hips, hands beneath the shoulders. To measure, bring the middle fingertips together like this on the mat. Palms are down, fingers are facing inward, just beneath the shoulders. From there, grip the palms against the mat and just twist those fingertips towards the front of the mat. That is shoulder distance for your body. Tuck the toes, press the hips back towards the heels, stretching out the feet. Rocking hips left and right. Then come forward, weight in the hands. Tuck the toes if they aren't already, and then lift the hips up and back into our first down dog. So in down dog, notice how my knees are super bent here. My hips are pulling back up towards the sky. Shoulders are pressing back. Good. Imagine someone pulling those hips back and up. Walk out the dog, pad the feet left and right. Lifting one heel and then the other. Then we're going to come down back to our table. Bring this right leg forward. We're going to come into our deer pose, and this is a very restorative, yummy pose. So the right leg comes forward. Everything comes to 90 degrees. So our right ankle is at 90 degrees, our right knee is at 90 degrees, then our left leg comes to 90 degrees right out from the left hip, left ankle 90 degrees. So same idea when we were in that bear squat twist, when we had this hip lifted, imagine drilling that down. So your left hip is gonna feel like you're kind of tilted over to the right side. Imagine stacking those shoulders back over the hips and pressing that hip down. We're gonna inhale, arms up, take them out to cactus, lean forward, pressing into the right knee and the right ankle to anchor you and stay strong. Engage the abdomen and then gently twist that left elbow towards the right knee. You might not be able to twist a whole lot here. You might really feel this waking up the hips. Don't go too far. We don't need too much sensation here. That leaning into it, that hinge is gonna help us find some sensation. Then we'll come back through center, come back up, drop the hands, and we're just gonna walk our hands forward, draping ourselves over that right leg. So don't let the pull of that left hip be lost. We're still pulling that hip down towards the mat, folding over the right leg. Maybe we come to our forearms, maybe we can come even more forward and let the head come down. Take whatever variation feels good and natural for you today. Should feel this in the outer glute, maybe even the IT band of that right leg. If your mind is wandering to what's coming next in the day, try to pull it back. sit here, notice one thing you're feeling, and rather than judging what you're feeling and getting down on ourselves if it's not what we want to be feeling, the trick is to just acknowledge what it is we're feeling. If it's sensation in our hip, just repeat that word, sensation, a couple times over and over until it's very much detached from owning that emotion or feeling, to where it's just that, it's just sensation. You don't have to link it to our being, our identity. It's just something that's taking place. You can walk those hands back in towards the leg. Stack those shoulders over the hips. We're gonna let that right leg kind of lift away and back and just kind of get some release there. Rocking back and forth on the glute. Then let that left leg come around to the front. Extend both legs forward. Take a forward fold for a moment just to equalize. Neutralize the hips. Then pull the chest back up and come back into deer on the other side. So the left leg comes forward 90 degrees at the knee, 90 degrees at the ankle, and then right leg comes right out from the right hip, 90 degrees at the ankle. So check, make sure that you're all 90 degrees everywhere, then pull this right hip down. Imagine a drill going right down, pulling it down. From here, we're gonna inhale, arms up, shoulders stacked, hands come out into a cactus. We're gonna take that same hinge forward. Try not to round in the back here. Keep everything nice and open. We're hinging forward and then twisting that right elbow towards the left knee. Good, yeah. You should really feel this fire up. You should feel like in order to maintain this balance, we have to really press into the left knee, the left ankle, and the right knee and the right ankle. That's gonna anchor us down the more we can press into those body parts into the mat. And we're gonna twist back through center, come up, and release those hands, fold over that leg. Hands come down, maybe forearms come down. Maybe we can let the head come down. And if you're sitting here and you're not feeling a whole lot in your hips, which you might be, and that's okay, but some people have naturally open hips. So if you need a bit more, imagine taking that cow tilt in the pelvis, in the tailbone. So imagine taking our cow and we're in tabletop position and we pull the tailbone towards the ceiling. We're taking that same motion here with the hips, but it's not as dramatic. We don't move as much. It's very subtle, but it opens up a world of new sensation in that hip. Or it can, again, depending on how tight your hips are. We'll slowly begin to walk those hands back towards the leg, stacking the shoulders up over the hips. I want you to kind of give that leg a bit of release here, so kind of wave it up and down, away from the floor. And extend this right leg forward, pull it forward to meet the left, pull it forward into a seated forward fold. So notice how I'm kind of rocking to get my butt out of the way. So I kind of have to pull it back. So I'm really seated and grounded on those sits bones. And then I'm pulling my toes towards my sternum and my sternum towards my toes. So I'm trying to create these two lines parallel my legs and my spine, rather than just folding and curving here. I want to pull that spine as long as I can. Once you find that position, just with your feet and your sternum pulling towards each other, your hands can relax on the legs wherever natural, the shins, the ankles, or the feet. Growing up, there was always this this expectation that if you could touch your toes, then you were flexible. We always did those things in gym, those tests. If you were a ballerina, those were things where if you could touch your toes, then you were flexible. But we associate these weird things with success. Being able to touch your toes doesn't mean you can necessarily do it right. It's focusing on the quality of the position that you're in, protecting everything involved, rather than just going straight for the toes. So if your hands aren't on your toes, perfectly okay. It doesn't mean that they have to be there. Then again, if you want to keep your hands on your feet, that's okay, as long as it's natural and feels good for your body. And so we'll slowly ripple up. Take the chin to the chest, round it up, shoulder stack over the hips. We'll take one reverse table here to open up the front of the body before closing out our practice. Our feet come flat to the mat, knees are bent up. My hands are kind of angled back and out, so kind of like 45 degrees off to the back of the mat. And I'm going to press into the fingertips, tent the knuckles, press into the hands and lift those hips forward and up, come into a reverse table. Feel the opening in the shoulders, maybe the hips if we're super tight. Maybe drop the head if that feels good. And then come down, hips, come back to the mat. Cross the legs and come into an easy seat. I like to finish my classes midday, not in a Shavasana, just so that we're not sleeping towards the rest of our afternoon. So inhale, arms up overhead. Exhale, hands to heart center. We're going to take a couple rounds of this. I invite you to close your eyes and really feel this breath reignite, rejuvenate, going towards the rest of our day. So inhale, arms wide. Hands up overhead. Exhale, hands to heart center. Inhale, out and up. Exhale, hands to heart center. Inhale, out and up. Exhale, hands to heart center. Last one, out and up. Inhale. Exhale, hands to heart center. Eyes closed, thumbs pressing against the chest, the heart center, here in Anjali Mudra, prayer hands. Let that be a reminder that wherever you go, your practice goes with you. It can be a very comforting thing to remember as days get crazy and stressful. Thank you so much for practicing with me midday today. I hope you have a great Thursday, and namaste. Hope to see you next week.